I mean, and we often only see the glamorous side of your life, but I bet there's a lot of hard work going into what you're doing and a lot of challenges as well as a singer.
Alison Krauss has always been celebrated for her angelic voice, her extraordinary musical talent, and her grace both on and off the stage. Fans see her as a symbol of poise, a quiet force in country and bluegrass music. But behind the music, her personal life has not been as harmonious as her melodies. For years, she was in a relationship that seemed stable, even promising. To outsiders, it looked like a love story built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and support. But in an instant, everything changed. One event, shocking, unexpected, and deeply personal, pushed Alison to a decision that would shock her fans. She filed for divorce immediately. This wasn't a gradual breakdown. There were no long public disputes, no drawn-out arguments, no media spectacle. It was a moment that forced clarity and action. And for someone as private and thoughtful as Alison, taking such a decisive step wasn't just about ending a relationship, it was about protecting herself, her peace, and the life she wanted to lead. In this video, we'll uncover exactly what happened, why it pushed her to the breaking point, and how this sudden divorce changed everything for one of the most respected voices in music. Once you hear the full story, you'll understand why Alison Krauss' decision stunned not only her partner but the entire music world. Alison Krauss has always lived her life differently from most celebrities. While many artists invite the public into their personal world, Alison did the opposite. She let the music speak and kept everything else carefully guarded. That privacy is exactly why her marriage and its sudden end caught so many people off guard. When Alison married, there was no spectacle, no grand media rollout, no carefully curated public image of a power couple. Instead, it was quiet, understated, and intentionally removed from the spotlight. To fans, this felt consistent with who she was: deeply talented, emotionally reserved, and intensely focused on her craft rather than celebrity culture. For a long time, the marriage appeared steady. Friends described it as calm, respectful, and grounded. Alison continued touring, recording, and performing at the highest level, all while maintaining the balance she had always prioritized. From the outside, there were no obvious warning signs, no public arguments, no dramatic shifts in her career. Everything looked normal, but normal can be misleading. Behind closed doors, Alison was navigating a relationship that required emotional alignment just as much as logistical stability. For someone as sensitive and intuitive as she is, emotional atmosphere matters deeply. She's often spoken indirectly about how energy, trust, and mutual understanding influence not just her personal happiness, but her ability to create music at all. Over time, subtle tensions began to surface. Not explosive conflicts, but moments that lingered. Conversations that didn't resolve. Feelings that were acknowledged but not addressed. Alison didn't rush to judgment or confrontation. Her nature has always been reflective. She observes. She listens. She waits. What made this marriage particularly complex was how much she had invested in keeping it private and protected. She wasn't interested in outside opinions or validation. That meant when issues arose, she handled them internally, hoping clarity would come through patience rather than pressure. But patience has limits, those close to. Alison later hinted that the relationship reached a point where something fundamental shifted. Not gradually, but distinctly. A moment that reframed everything she thought she understood about trust, respect, or emotional safety. It wasn't about public embarrassment or scandal. It was about something deeply personal that crossed a line she couldn't unsee. For Alison, this wasn't a moment to negotiate or rationalize. It was a moment of recognition. Unlike many public breakups that unfold slowly, her response was swift. The decision to divorce wasn't fueled by anger or impulse. It was fueled by clarity. Once that line was crossed, there was no ambiguity left to explore. She didn't believe in dragging out something that no longer aligned with her values or emotional well-being. What shocked people wasn't just that the marriage ended, but how decisively it ended. There were no public explanations, no interviews spelling out details, no attempts to control the narrative. Alison returned to what she has always done best. Silence, dignity, and forward motion. Of her life revealed something many fans had never fully appreciated. Beneath the soft voice and gentle presence is a woman with unshakable boundaries. Someone who may wait patiently, but once she understands the truth of a situation, she acts without hesitation. The marriage didn't end because of fame, pressure, or creative differences. It ended because Alison reached a moment where staying would have meant betraying herself. We'll explore what that pivotal moment represented, why it changed everything so quickly, and how it reshaped Alison Krauss' approach to love, trust, and privacy going forward. For someone like Alison Krauss, decisions are rarely impulsive. She's known for listening carefully, weighing emotions quietly, and allowing time to reveal the truth of a situation. That's why what happened next surprised nearly everyone who knew her. When the defining moment arrived, Alison didn't hesitate. She didn't stall. She didn't attempt to repair what had already broken. She acted. Those close to her have always described Alison as emotionally intuitive. She senses shifts before they become visible problems. In her music, that sensitivity translates into haunting clarity. In her personal life, it serves as an internal compass. When something feels fundamentally wrong, she doesn't ignore it, she absorbs it, examines it, and waits for certainty. And when certainty comes, it is unmistakable. The event that led to the immediate divorce wasn't dramatic in a public sense. There were no flashing cameras, no explosive arguments leaked to the media. What made it decisive was what it represented. It revealed a truth about the relationship that could not be undone or explained away. In that moment, Alison realized that the foundation she believed she was standing on was no longer solid. For her, trust isn't a flexible concept. It's essential. Once compromised, it alters how safe a relationship feels, not just emotionally, but creatively and spiritually as well. Alison has often hinted that when her personal world is unsettled, it directly affects her ability to make music. And this moment didn't just unsettle her, it reframed everything. What followed was quiet but resolute. There were no ultimatums. No prolonged discussions meant to soften the reality. Alison understood that staying longer would only blur the clarity she had finally reached. She also knew herself well enough to recognize that trying to work through something that had crossed her inner boundary would slowly erode her sense of self. That's why the divorce happened so quickly. To outsiders, the speed felt shocking. To Alison, it felt necessary. She didn't see value in prolonging pain or pretending uncertainty where there was none. Once the truth revealed itself, her path forward became clear, even if it wasn't easy. What makes this moment especially significant is how rare such decisiveness is in public figures known for gentleness. Alison's calm demeanor has often been mistaken for passivity. This situation proved the opposite. Her softness has always coexisted with strength. She may approach life quietly, but when it comes to protecting her emotional well-being, she is unwavering. The aftermath was handled with the same restraint. Alison didn't offer details. She didn't correct rumors or feed speculation. She simply stepped back, allowing time and distance to do their work. Music became her refuge again, not as an escape, but as grounding. Performing and creating allowed her to process without explanation. Those close to her later noticed a shift. Not bitterness, not anger, but clarity. A sense that she had chosen alignment over comfort. She seemed more settled, more centered. Even as she navigated the emotional weight of ending a marriage, of Alison's life revealed a powerful truth: boundaries don't have to be allowed to be firm. You don't have to explain your limits to honor them. Sometimes the strongest decision is the quiet one made swiftly. Privately and without apology, we'll explore how this experience reshaped Alison Krauss' view on love and relationships, and why she became even more protective of her inner world after walking away. After the divorce, Alison Krauss didn't rush to explain herself or redefine her personal life for public understanding. Instead, she retreated inward, something she had always done when life demanded reflection. But this time, the reflection carried new weight. The marriage hadn't just ended. It had permanently reshaped how she understood love, trust, and emotional safety. Those close to Alison noticed that she became even more guarded with her inner world. Not closed off, but intentional. The experience taught her that vulnerability without reciprocity is dangerous, especially for someone as emotionally open as she is by nature. She began drawing firmer lines between what she shared publicly, privately, and personally. Love, she realized, required not just affection but alignment. What changed most was her relationship with trust. Before, Alison believed trust could be rebuilt through patience and communication. Afterward, she understood that some breaches don't announce themselves loudly. They quietly alter the emotional climate. And once that climate changes, no amount of effort can restore what once felt safe. Trust for her became something measured not in promises, but in consistency. This shift influenced how she approached relationships moving forward. Alison stopped romanticizing endurance. Staying, she learned, is not always noble. Sometimes leaving is the most honest act of self-respect. That realization didn't make her cynical, it made her clear. She no longer believed love should require emotional compromise or internal justification. Her music reflected this transformation. Listeners began noticing a deeper sense of restraint and emotional precision in her performances. There was less yearning, more resolve. The softness remained, but it carried boundaries now. Each lyric felt intentional, as if she was honoring emotion without letting it overwhelm her. Alison also became more selective with intimacy, not just romantic, but emotional intimacy in general. She trusted fewer people, but trusted them more deeply. This wasn't isolation. It was refinement. She chose peace over access, depth over familiarity. Those who earned their way into her inner circle understood the privilege it represented. Interestingly, the divorce didn't harden her view of love, it clarified it. She still believed in connection, partnership, and shared growth. But she no longer believed love should cost someone their sense of self. The experience taught her that the right relationship doesn't require silence, endurance, or emotional shrinking. Publicly, her composure never cracked. Privately, she was recalibrating her emotional compass. She learned to listen to discomfort sooner rather than rationalize it away. She learned that clarity doesn't always arrive gently, but when it does, ignoring it only deepens regret. Perhaps the most significant change was her relationship with herself. The divorce forced Alison to trust her own instincts fully, without second-guessing or external validation. She stopped asking whether her feelings were reasonable and started asking whether they were honest. That shift alone changed everything. Of her life wasn't about heartbreak, it was about boundaries. It wasn't about loss, it was about alignment. Alison Krauss emerged from the experience quieter than before, but stronger. More private, but more certain. We'll explore why Alison never spoke publicly about what happened, how her silence became part of her strength, and what her story ultimately reveals about choosing peace over explanation. After the divorce, many expected Alison Krauss to eventually tell her side of the story. In an era where personal revelations often become public currency, her silence stood out. There were no emotional interviews, no carefully worded statements, no attempts to correct speculation. For Alison, explanation was never part of healing. Privacy was. Her decision not to speak publicly wasn't rooted in fear or avoidance. It was rooted in self-respect. Alison has always believed that some experiences lose their meaning once they are exposed to public interpretation. The moment she chose divorce, she also chose to protect what remained of her inner world. That boundary, once drawn, was never crossed. Silence became her way of reclaiming control. By refusing to explain, she denied the public the power to dissect her pain or assign motives she didn't recognize. She understood that once a story is released, it no longer belongs to the person who lived it. And Alison was unwilling to hand over something that personal to curiosity or judgment. This approach was consistent with how she had lived her entire life. Fame never altered her values. She didn't see visibility as validation. She didn't equate transparency with honesty. To her, truth was something lived, not narrated. The people who needed to understand already did. Everyone else didn't need to. Over time, her silence reshaped the narrative. Instead of fueling rumors, it starved them. Without reaction, speculation lost momentum. The story faded not because it wasn't important, but because it was no longer being fed. Alison moved forward quietly, allowing her actions, not explanations, to define her. Her music became the only place where emotion surfaced, and even then, it remained subtle. Listeners sensed depth, not confession. Healing, not bitterness. She never turned her experience into a message or a lesson for others. She simply lived differently afterward, and that difference spoke volumes. What makes Alison's story resonate is not what she revealed, but what she refused to. In a culture that often demands access, her restraint felt radical. She showed that strength doesn't require disclosure and closure doesn't require consensus. Sometimes peace comes from stepping away without defending your choice. Today, when fans look back, the sudden divorce no longer feels mysterious. It feels intentional. It reflects a woman who knows herself deeply enough to act decisively and quietly when something no longer aligns. There is no unresolved tension in her silence. Only clarity. Alison Krauss didn't leave her marriage to make a statement. She left to protect her emotional well-being, her creativity, and her sense of self. And by refusing to explain, she reinforced a powerful truth. You don't owe the world access to your pain.